Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh and I'm here today to do a little gear review for you, which is something a bit different for me. Usually I like to go out into the field and I'm either shooting landscapes and nature, things like that, or going for long hikes in the countryside and doing short little films about the hikes and explaining things at the end. But today I actually want to talk about a piece of gear that I've been using for about 6 months now. So it's something I switched to, there was basically a trip earlier this year. I went to the Netherlands, came back, looked at my images, and things just weren't how I wanted them to be. Things weren't exactly sharp. Sometimes the setup that I had before, I would miss the shot and I would get home and the results just wouldn't be up to my very high standards. So it's a decision that I made earlier on in the year and I'd like to tell you guys about it. So without further ado, here we go. So the piece of gear that I'm going to be talking about today is a camera lens, and it's something that probably isn't the norm, to be honest with you. I didn't really take a step forward with this lens. It was sort of a step backwards, I would say, if anything. But it's something that I chose to do, and I'm really happy I did, because the results I'm getting out of this are second to none, really. I don't think there's another lens like this on the market, and the setup that I'm using at the moment, there's nothing that competes with it, I wouldn't say. So this is a really, really great lens. And the one main reason why is the focal range. So this is the Tamron 18-300 f3.5 to 6.3 Di 3-A VC VXD. So like I said, the main thing to take from that is the 18-300. So in full frame terms, that's 28-450mm in one lens. And it's not even a huge lens. I'll show you there. If I'll put that there. Yeah, so it's not an enormous lens. It's quite chunky, quite robust and very durable. But it's the one thing that's made my photography so exciting, and it's breathed a new lease of life back into my photography, I'd say, as well. So yeah, this is a decision I made after being full frame with Sony for about 4 or 5 years, having the A7 III and then the A7R III, and switching around with lenses throughout that time. Before this, I was shooting with the A7R III, and then I had the Tamron, let me try and remember, the Tamron 28-75 2.8. That was my kind of walk around lens, but I just found that I would miss the shot sometimes, because then it would only go to 75, and if it was a long shot I'd have to get the telephoto out, and my telephoto was the Sony G Master 100-400. So I had the 28-75 and the 100-400, and that really was a great setup. But the main thing about it was just so big. It was so bulky and heavy, and what I would often have to end up doing would be I would have to make a decision between taking the telephoto lens, the 100-400, and a drone. And often, you know, I want to take everything. If I'm going on a hike, I don't know what I'm going to come across, so I might see something way off in the distance and want that telephoto and want the reach on the camera, or I might see something and it's a fantastic drone shot, you know, if I'm walking along cliffs or something like that, and I see some shot of the sea with the cliffs, then I might want to get that. So I'm one of those photographers that will try and take everything, even the kitchen sink, with me when I go out photographing. So because of that, I wanted to fit all of my gear in my bag at one time. And to make things even trickier, I last year switched backpacks as well. So I went from a 50-litre camera backpack down to a 30-litre backpack. So smaller backpack, smaller gear, and this was the one key piece to the puzzle that made things work. So this meant that I could ditch the full frame camera and lenses, which meant that I could have a crop sensor Sony camera and have this lens on, and pretty much this lens can stay on the camera body for most of the time. So as I said, I was mainly shooting with the A7R3 and a range of full frame lenses, which ended up being really heavy in the bag. Well, I can show you actually. So just for reference, there we are. Still got it. Probably will sell it at some point, but at the moment I've still got it. Let's focus. Is that focus? Yeah, there we go. So that's the 100 to 400 there. Yeah, this is an amazing lens. It's one of the best lenses that I think Sony have ever released. It's one of the sharpest lenses that I've ever used, and it's super reliable. The autofocus is great. Can't fault it at all, apart from the fact that it's really big and bulky. So that's the main thing. So I had that lens was my telephoto, and then that is the Tamron 28 to 75. Again, probably going to sell it at some point, but haven't got around to it yet. So for reference, these are the two lenses. So that's the 28 to 75, that's the 18 to 300. So yeah, if I put them there together and I hide behind them, there we go. So they're very similar in size and weight and everything. They have the same filter size as well. I think Tamron are pretty consistent with having I think it's a 67mm filter thread. Yeah, 67. So yes, those were the two lenses. So those two ended up basically as that one and more, because my previous setup, there was a big gap in the middle between 75 and 100mm. Not the end of the world, but I had those two, and then it would only go out to 400 at the long end, whereas this goes all the way out to 450, which is great. So it means that I can get those longer shots, things that little bit further out in the distance. It means I can reach them. I don't have to crop in or anything like that, and it's just a really, really handy lens to have. So what are the key points with this lens then? Some of the key pros. So it's all-in-one, 28 to 450 in full frame terms, 18 to 300 in crop sensor. It has vibration control, so that's the VC on the lens barrel there. So vibration control is Tamron's way of saying lens stabilization. So basically this lens is stable, so you can shoot video handheld, and it won't be anywhere near as shaky, and then you can also shoot photo with much longer shutter speeds. So yeah, that's a really great point to it, because the 28 to 75, this is the Mark 1 version. There's a new one out now which I think is stabilized, but this one wasn't. So that was quite an upgrade really to have that. This is 2.8 all the way through. This is 3.5 to 6.3, and I'll come onto that when I talk about the negatives in a bit. Another pro is that it's sharp. It's really nice and sharp. So like I said, I went to the Netherlands earlier this year and came back, and I was shooting with a Sony crop sensor camera and the kit lens. So it was the 16 to 50, I think it is, and then the 55 to 210. So they're like the two kit lenses that you can get with the Sony crop sensor cameras, basically. So it meant that I missed shots while I was there. I've been shooting with that as my kind of backup and hiking setup, because it was so lightweight for the past 2 or 3 years. But basically I wasn't happy with the results, and I knew that this lens existed, and I knew that it was worth a try, and I'm so happy I did. So this is way sharper than those two lenses are, in my opinion. So I'm no expert with the sharpness of lenses, but I know what I like. I know what looks good when I come home and review the photos in Lightroom. So I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. So it's not the sharpest lens I've ever tested. This would probably be a 10 in my opinion, this one here. So I give that one a 10, but I give it a 1 for size and portability. It's not that bad. For full frame cameras, it's not that bad, but for crop sensors, it really is. So 7.5, so pretty good, better than average, and really, really nothing to turn your nose up at in terms of sharpness. Weather sealing is really good on this. I've used it in rain and no trouble at all. Haven't used it in really cold conditions yet because I got it in, must have been about April or May, and yeah, it just hasn't been cold enough then. So I've still got to test the cold test. I've used it in the heat, and it's really good in the heat as well. Used it on beaches and in sandy, dusty conditions in Greece, and yeah, no trouble with this at all. So the weather sealing is great. So let's go on to some negatives. There are a few. It's not a perfect lens. The first one, and it might just be my copy of it, but I don't know if you can appreciate, but the barrel is fairly stiff, and you can probably hear that, which means that for video, zooming in and out with a microphone close to where the lens is, the video is going to pick up on that basically, and you'll hear that sort of grinding or like brushing noise as it zooms in and out. But so it's not ideal. So that might just be my copy though. I'm not sure. I haven't really tested any others. So it's stiff. It is fairly big when you put it onto a crop sensor body. I'll put it onto my camera here. This is the Sony a6700 that I'm shooting with these days, by the way. Another amazing piece of kit, which I'll do a full review of very soon as well, because this, again, is a new purchase this year, and it's something that I've been really, really happy with. And again, it's really improving and making my photography just that little bit easier, because out in the field, you really, really don't want to end up with a mistake or a miss shot, or come home and you're really happy with what you've done out in the field, and you get home and things are out of focus and things like that. I absolutely hate that. So again, this is making sure that I get the shot every time. So like I said, I'll do a full review on that another time. Anyway, yeah, when this is on the body, hide behind it again, or maybe I'll just, it's too far to lean out of the frame. Yeah, this is it, and it is quite big. So if you like a nice lightweight setup that you want to keep on all the time, and you're not worried about that really long reach out to 300mm, maybe this isn't the lens for you. But for me, a landscape photographer, this is exactly what I need, because it's really not too big to handhold, and I just find it really, really easy and fun to use. So can be a bit big for some people. Let's say that. What's the next one? It could be sharper. So again, I gave it a 7.5. It's not as sharp as this, but it is everything in one lens. And these sort of travel super zooms, they're notoriously soft usually. So it could be sharper, but I think it's actually really good for what it is. And the fact that it gives you that absolutely crazy versatility, that negates that little lack of sharpness, in my opinion. So could be a negative, or it could just be a meh, who cares? Yeah, let's go on to the next one. It's slow. Yeah, it is a bit slow. Not as in running in a race, but the f-stop is a bit slow. So it's 3.5 at the wide end at 28. Let's have a look here. I'll tell you what it goes down in increments. So it's 3.5 at the 18. Then as I zoom in, what's that, about 30mm, something like that. That goes down to 4, f4. 40mm, it goes down to 4.5. Then by 70mm, it's down to f5. By 100mm, it's down to f5.6. By 200, it's down to 6.3. So yeah, then from 200 to 300, it's 6.3. So yeah, that's a bit slow for what it is, especially on a crop sensor camera. This lens, for example, it's 5.6 at the long end, so that's 4.5 to 5.6. So it is what it is, really. It's 6.3. It's not the fastest lens, but again, I just don't see that as a true negative, because really it's a super zoom. It's so convenient and it makes my life so much easier. So yes, I do miss some shots, I suppose, in darker conditions, when you're needing to get really far out and zoom in, but really and truly not true negative in my opinion. So there we go. Yeah, that's pretty much everything to say about it, I guess. So it is a really good setup. I do recommend it. I have told several people about it who shoot Sony. It comes in other mounts as well. I think it's on Fuji X mount, and I'm not sure if it's on the Nikon Z mount. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll pop it down here if it is. But yeah, it's on other mounts. But for Sony shooters, I highly recommend it. Like I said, I've got the a6700. It works perfectly on it. Before that, had this camera, which is the a6400. Again, really good setup. So a lot of the photos that I'll show you throughout this video, they were taken with the a6400 as well. So that was my little gear review. I would like to do more of these actually, because although this room, believe it or not, took quite a while to get set up, as it's my first time filming in here, hopefully next time it will be a bit smoother. And like I said, I'd like to review the camera as well, the a6700, and there's a few other bits that I picked up recently that I'll probably do reviews on as well, so stay tuned for those. Also, once it gets to the more summery and, well, springtime conditions, I'll probably start reviewing some of the outdoor gear that I'm buying as well. I may even review some winter gear as well throughout the winter. Yeah, so stay tuned for that kind of thing in the future. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and comment. If you have any constructive criticism, it's always welcome. But for now, I'm going to leave it at that because I'm quite hungry. It's dinner time. Oh, what is the time? It's 8:20, so definitely dinner time. So I'm going to grab some grub and I will see you soon. So yeah, let me know what you think about the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Bye. Whoop.